Hey folks, I'm back. We're going to talk about static classes and static methods here. I'm here with the Power Rangers again, and I reorganized the code into the kind of the standard structure of a program. We're setting up all of our variables at the top, and then if we were going to do anything with the data, we would process that next, and then we would output, whatever the result is. So we're just setting up the data and printing it out here. I still have the Zord class. I've added some properties here: name of the Zord, the pilot's name, color, special attack. I don't think I added that yet in the properties, but we'll see. And then the Megazord class is the same. All right. And let's start with a static class. So all of these classes that we have so far, Power Rangers Go. Here, I'll minimize so you can see them all together. None of these are static classes. To create a static class, fairly simple. Static class. We'll call it Monster Records. And we'll give it a property of number. Oops. Remember, property starts with a capital letter. All right, public. Oh, forgot my data type here. Number. And we'll set it to 0 to start out. All right, let's make sure I didn't make any mistakes here. Forgot to. So in a static class, you can only have static members. And what is a static class? Okay, so a static class is a class that you don't use to create objects. It is a good way to hold global variables or methods that you'll need to use on different things, but you won't necessarily need an object to store any information. So here, the idea is, actually, let's call this Zord Records because we already have Zords. All right. So every time we add a Zord, we're going to update the Zord Records static class number property by increasing it by 1. So how would we use that now? All right. I'm also going to move this class up so you can look at it potentially as we're working with it. Probably not though, because this other class is so big, and we'll talk about that too. So our initial class here, we've got a lot of, I'm manually inputting a lot of literal values, literal strings for all of this stuff. The one thing that if you look at code like this, the one thing you should think is you sure are repeating a lot of the same thing over and over again. And if you remember, in all of my classes, we talk about the DRY acronym, DRY, don't repeat yourself. The point of programming is to of a computer is to do a lot of monotonous tasks quickly. If I am repeating the same code over and over again, I am now doing the computer's job. So anytime you see things repeated like this, you can be sure that there's some way to do it more efficiently. And so you should be looking for a way to do that if you find yourself in that situation. Now, we'll introduce those ideas as we go through this class, and in Object-Oriented 2, we'll look at some lower level ways that you guys already know, like methods, functions, which we create as methods here in C#, loops, all that kind of stuff to kind of reduce the amount of repetition that you have to do. We'll also, classes and objects are also used to reduce repetition. Anyway, using a static class. So I'm going to add a line here. So, I'll just do it in one line. So we're creating here, we're creating 3 new Zords. And so I want to use the Zord records number property to keep track of how many Zords we've created. Now these examples that I'm using, this is just to practice the syntax and understand the structure. We are not using a lot of these structures for what they're meant for, to be more efficient. The reason why we have these is I'm not using them in here for that reason. I'm just showing you how they work. Okay, so you probably wouldn't create this as a static class with a static property like this. I would probably put this static, if we were going to track this, I would probably put the static property inside of the Zord class, but I just wanted to show you the static class too. Anyway, up here I will, after creating these, I'll do Zord records. So I'm actually using the class name to access the members. So when you have a static class, you just use the class name, and then you can access any of the static members. So here we have number, and we will put in, I'll do this the right way here, +3. So whatever that number is, we're going to add 3 to it because we added 3 Zords, and store that in there. Alright, because we are just storing the Zords in 3 variables here, we have to kind of do this manually. Now, I just mentioned, loops and functions as a way to, handle not repeating yourself. Arrays are also useful, and I'll introduce you to lists in the next video. I'll introduce you into how to use arrays and lists, and we'll put these in those structures so that we don't have to we can remove a lot of this code that's being repeated and put it in there. Okay. So now I have that 3. So down here where I'm printing out Power Rangers, combine your Zords, I'll put Power Rangers, combine your Zord records dot number Zords. Okay, and then now we can see that number there. We created 3 manually. We put in the number 3 manually. We can automate some of this, and we'll take a look at that in the next video. I just wanted to show you, if you create a static class, you can access the static members by using the class name. Let's go ahead and do the example of, it would make more sense to actually put this in Zord so we don't have an extra class that just has 1 number in it. Yeah. Let's see if I can do it that simply. Yes, okay. And so I'll keep this on here, but I'll also put Zord.number Zord.number plus 3. And then we can change this one to Zord.number. And so that way we don't need that extra. In this case, we don't actually need this. I just wanted to show you how you could set that up. So again, if you're only going to have static members inside of the class and you don't want to create you don't need to create objects, you only need one instance, you can use a static class. This is one way you can signal the intention of the code you've written. So if it is a static class, then when someone's looking at the code, they know, oh, I'm not going to be creating objects from this because I can't. And so it's a kind of a signal that's how it's meant to be used. And a lot of this stuff is just a way to control or actually describe how you want someone to be using your code and to remind yourself moving forward. It's one of the nice parts about having a strictly typed programming language. Everything has to be, especially C#, everything has to be predefined and set up ahead of time so things can't get all scrambled. Okay. All right, I guess that's it for static. So make sure you ask me questions if that doesn't make sense.